Hi, this is regarding direct comparison approach in the principle of appraisal. So, the direct comparison approach is one of the most commonly used method to value for valuing single property homes. So essentially, it involves comparing the subject property to similar homes that have sold recently in the same neighborhood. And again, it's a good indication of value providing they are provided there are sufficient number of good comparable sales because it reflects the action of a typical buyer and seller. In a normal course of event, a salesperson takes a prospective buyer through a number of listed properties, many of which later sell. When the buyer is about to make an offer on the property, the salesperson reminds him of all the properties that they have seen, indicates what they have since sold and are still listed for. Of course, the salesperson will also show the the buyer sales and listing of the property they might not have seen. The buyer then compares all of these properties and prices to the property that are about to buy, and then makes a decision as to what he or she is willing to pay. By doing this, the buyer is really substituting the property for another using the principle of substitution, and this is the basis for direct comparison approach. So, what are the steps involved in the direct comparison approach? In order to complete the valuation of a property in an accurate and efficient manner, we would need to outline the steps. The first step is selecting the sufficient number of good comparable properties that are recently sold in the area. Gather all necessary data on these properties to make a proper comparison. Compare each of these of the sales with the subject for the differences that may exist, make a normal necessary adjustments to the sale price of each comparable based on those differences, reconcile the adjusted sale price of the properties into an indication of value of the subjected property. Essentials of good comparable sales. In selecting a comparable sale, you will need to ensure that they possess four basic qualities. The sale should be on as close as possible to the date of valuation. The older the sale, the less reliable it is likely to be, especially if significant economic, physical, location, or political changes have taken place between the date of comparable sale and the date of valuation. It is the difficulty of being able to accurately assess and qualify the dollar impact of one impact of any changes that makes the dated sale less reliable. The comparable share should be located within the same subject neighborhood, preferably on the subject street or as close as possible. The comparable sale should be truly physically similar in nature. So the test here is, would the buyer of the subject property look at purchasing the comparable sale as an alternative? In evaluating two-bedroom bungalows, comparable need to be two-bedroom bungalows. It would not make sense to select three-story duplexes as comparables for two-bedroom bungalows. It would be highly unlikely that a buyer who is willing, who is looking for a two-bedroom bungalow would make an alternative decision to buy a three-story duplex instead. The comparable sale should be an arm's length transaction under conditions that would meet the definition of a market sale or the condition of a market value. So to recap, the sale should be as close as possible. The comparable should be located in the same neighborhood. It should be truly physically similar in nature, and it should be an arm's length transaction. So again, if you are forced to use it poor comparables because of the lack of market activity in the neighborhood or because the property is not a standard in the area, then we need to explain this to the client and detail why we are using comparables. That and again, also in choosing comparables during the economic boom, you're likely to find a number of highly comparable recent sales located close by the subject. During the economic recession, the chances are that there are very few comparable recent sales located close by. So, and we cannot manufacture good comparable sales. So, if none of them are right in the search in terms of the sale date, physical comparability, and or location, in these circumstances, the search for and the choice of comparable should be guided by choose a comparable sale that would appear appeal to the same or similar buyers as would be the buyer of the subject property, and choose a comparable sales when you would be relatively confident of the accuracy of the adjustments needed to take into account for of any necessary time, location, or physical differences. Using comparable listing estimate value. So, uh, current comparable listing can be helpful in estimating value, especially in a fast moving market or in a slow moving market. In the first instance, even a 2 year old in 2 months old, in the first instance, even 2 month old sale may not be a good comparison because of the adjustment needed to take into account the time difference. In the second instance, there may be very few or no good comparable sales, and you may be forced to make many adjustments. A current comparable listing can indicate what a property is not worth. So there could be a scenario where you are asked to value the subject property for the listing purpose, and and that property would be at, let's say, two storage, 2,000 square feet home, and prices might have risen 10 to 15% over the past 6 months. And now when you select three comparable sales, for the first comparable sales sold for $200,000 2 months ago, the second one sold for $210,000 3 months ago, a third one sold for $200,000 1 month ago. Each comparable sale required 4 or 5 adjustments, including time adjustment. It has not been easy to estimate and quantify the adjustments. However, you have done the best you could. So comparable sales, one adjusted for price would be $210,000, two adjusted for price would be $212,000, and three price would be $214,000. After careful consideration, you feel that the subject property should be estimated at $212,000. Subsequently, to the estimate of $212,000, you discover a current listing has been on the market for 50 days and priced at $209,000. There has been no offer on the property in the market when where a well-priced property exists. Usual sells in 30 to 60 days. The listing is a detached two-story, 2,000 square foot home located one block from the subject property. The property is very similar to the subject and might even be in a slightly superior condition. Clearly, the current listing is telling you the subject property is not worth $212,000. Despite your best effort, one of your one or all of your adjustments have not been as accurate as you would have hoped. The listing has told you the subject is worth less than $200,000 and allows you to go back and check your calculation and adjustments in order to arrive at the revised and more accurate estimate of value. In reality, your revised estimate should probably be somewhere between below $29,000. So again, the the crux of the scenario is, even though we try to make the best use of information and the available listings and make adjustments, it is sometimes not accurate or might need some more adjustments considering the current market situation. Adjustments, even in the neighborhood of a new home, it is difficult to find three comparables that require no adjustment at all. The older the neighborhood and more varied the housing, the more adjustment would be needed. It is common to see several adjustments for each comparable using estimating the value of the property. Adjustments are made to the selling price of the comparables. This is done in order to eliminate any significant difference between them and the subject, and the so the adjusted selling price reflects the subject value. Type of adjustments: rights covered by the transactions, financing terms, motivation of the parties, market condition, location, physical characteristics. So the types of adjustment would be rights conveyed by the transaction. This involves the type of ownership that a person has in the property being appraised and the legal right affecting it. You could have a property where the client's interest is called life state, life leasehold, or a fee simple. Given the nature of the majority of the transactions in residential real estate, you need only for the purpose of this course concern yourself with estimating the value of the house where the ownership is fee simple. Restrict rights are comparable to those where the sales involves a free symbol state. The adjustments under this heading could be where either the subject or the comparable has an easement, encroachment, or restrictive covenants. Financing terms. Given the mortgage are arranged because of the personal finances of the owner or buyer, subject property is in most instances valued as if it was a free and clear and capable of attracting typical financing. However, there can be instances where the comparables used have been sold with a non-typical financing. For instance, a comparable sold with a seller take-back mortgage well below well below market rates. In this case, a buyer would have been given an advantage and the seller would have been disadvantaged. As a result, it would be unreasonable to expect that the buyer may have been induced to pay and the seller may have demanded the higher sale price. So again, if there is a seller take back mortgage, then it is not unreasonable to expect that the buyer may be induced to pay and the seller may have demanded a higher sale price. A comparable sold with the buyer receiving the mortgage with below market rates. In both of these situations, the adjustment may be warranted to take care of the difference in subject valuation as a free and clear and the comparable appealing non-typical financing arrangements. Motivation of parties. In the valuation of the property for mortgage, consider market value. Standard market value assumes that there has been no unusual motivation or undue pressure on either party to the sale of the property. Clearly, all buyers and sellers must be motivated to a reasonable degree. Otherwise, there would not be any reason for them to engage in a real estate transaction. However, you may discover that one of your comparable sales sold under what can be described as a undue pressure or unusual motivation. Undue pressure or unusual motivation can, of course, impact what a property has been sought or sold for. The following circumstances are examples of scenario where undue pressure or motivation may be suspected. The sellers are under financial pressure with the bank's threatening power of sale. The seller is motivated within 3 weeks of the property being listed. The buyer has been relocated by his or employer and only has time to spend 3 days looking at the house. The buyer is desperate to buy a house next to his elderly parents. The seller already has sought a house which is closing in 4 weeks. The buyer has already sold a house which is closing 3 weeks. Adjustments for undue pressure or unusual motivation are very difficult to quantify and support. Therefore, if you feel that a comparable selling price has been adjusted by pressure or motivation, the best recommendation is that you discard it and look at an alternative sale. Market condition. The majority of the comparable sales will have sold sometime in the past. If it is rare to find a good comparable sale that has occurred on the date of valuation, price levels can change over any given period of time, whether it's a month or 6 months. The question is you should ask yourself is it comparable? What would be sold at the date of valuation? What would be the selling price? There are two locational difference that can occur. The comparable may be actually be located within different neighborhood of the subject, or the comparables may be situated within the same neighborhood but affected by different processes, such as subject may back on a park, maybe on a busy street. Physical characteristics. Chances are that there will be physical difference between the comparable sales and subject. Each physical adjustment must be broken down and shown separately and not lumped together into with other adjustments under one general heading, such as physical differences. Physical differences may range from size, layout, conditions to garage, fireplace style, and central air conditioning. Calculating adjustment. Time, locational, and physical adjustments typically represent 99% of the adjustments we have ever made. Occasional adjustments are made for special financing or encroachment or easement. Accordingly, this course we will concentrate on calculating the time, locational, and physical adjustment while also addressing how to estimate the adjustment for special financing. Calculating time adjustment and market conditions. The two basic ways to estimate the changes in price over a given period of time from a local real estate board published statistics and the time resale method. Published Chapter 6. Real estate board track changing market conditions by publishing on a monthly basis a set of statistics showing such information as the number of sales, number of listings, and the average and median prices for each month. These figures are usually shown for the combined board area and also broken down on each district within the area. Of course, with the advent of internet, salesperson can usually actually access the changing statistics on a daily or weekly basis. The average median price published can be used to calculate the price change as illustrated below. So for example, if the average, so while calculating the adjustment, we can look at the published there's no need for a time adjustment. So there are two basic ways to estimate the changes in the price over a given period of time. From the local real estate board published statistics are the time resale method. For the published statistics method, you can look at the local real estate board published statistics. For example, an average house price sold is about sold on August 30 was for $225,000. The average sold price in May was $250,000. So the difference over 3 months, or the price increase over 3 months, is about $10,000. Um, and that on the percentage increase would be around 4.65%. So while putting the adjustment, comparable selling prices on March 8 is $200,000. Time adjustments will be $209,000. The time resale method. The idea behind this method is that when property sells and resells, given within a given time frame, any difference in the price should be a reflection of the change in the market condition due to time. Ensure that the price change as a result of the passage of time is not due to any physical or motivational factors. The best resale would be located in the same neighborhood and the same similar type of subject. The illustration below says, for example, let's say there are three properties which are used in valuation of the subject property A with the valuation date of December 30. You find a comparable property B which is $145,000 and very similar to a subject property except that it sold 8 months prior. Prices have increased over the past year. The properties C, D, and E in the neighborhood sold, resold during the year 2000, and you are able to confirm that no legal, physical, or motivational location factors occurred to this property between the time of the sale and resale. For example, property C sold in April for $150,000, sold back in December for $160,000, price increase of 8%. Similarly, property D had a price increase of 6.97%, and property E has a price of 10%. Time difference was 8 months, 7 months, and 6 months. So monthly increase will be 1% or 0.91%. Based on analysis, the price increase per month of 1% is estimated. So for 8 months, 8%. So that time adjustment would be $100,000. Calculating location adjustment. There is a paired sales method used when good comparables are not available. Take two properties within the same subject location that were similar to each other, except one is sold close to the sale date of the comparable and the other is sold close to the appraisal date. So again, in the paired sales method is used when good comparables are not available. You take two properties within the subject neighborhood that are similar to each other except for location difference, where one is sold close to the sale date of the comparable and the other is sold close to the appraisal date. Location and physical adjustment. So the calculation of dollar adjustment for differences between the comparable subjects for location is done by paired sales method. The basis for this method is that you select two sales that are identical to one another except for the difference in the location, the same location difference as between comparable and the subject. The sale should have occurred roughly in the same time. Accordingly, any variance in the selling price between two sales would represent the adjustment in a value between the locations. Ensure that the paired sales are identical to one another except that for the same difference in location that would be you observe between the comparable and the subject. They should also be of similar type and the same price range as a subject. For example, the subject is a detached single family home worth $200,000. The paired sale should not be attached duplexes and $350,000 to $400,000. As a rule of thumb, try to select three sets of paired sales in order to be more certain of the results. Calculating physical adjustments. Um, the calculation of dollar adjustment for pair physical differences between the comparable subjects is done by using pair sales method. The basis of this method is to select two sales that are identical to one another except one for a specific physical difference. The sale should have occurred roughly at the same time, and accordingly, any variance in the selling price between the two sales would represent adjustment in value for the physical difference. Other methods of calculate physical and locational adjustment. If you are concerned with the reliability of pair sales method or just are unable to find acceptable pair sales, you can you can try you can turn to the survey method. This method of calculating an adjustment follows the premise that the dollar adjustment used to reflect should reflect the action of the buyer. What better kind of gauging the action of buyer than surveying the buyers that have recently bought properties with very with, with very items or component that you need to ask for the adjustment for. In other words, simply ask buyers what value they attribute to specific items as part of the house they just bought. You could do this on a formal basis, send out a survey which you will ask recent buyers to complete and return. Financing term adjustment. If the comparables sold with significant mortgage having a rate was still higher or lower than the market rate, as the data valuation adjustment needs to be required. The little bit of the difference in the face value of the mortgage and the mortgage eventually sell on an open market. In order to make this calculation, you need to find a discounted mortgage evaluation table. Please note that the annual rate is rate of interest actually charged on the mortgage, and the yield rate is the rate market rate of the interest at as that idea evaluation. Reconciliation after analyzing, comparing, and adjusting the selling price of the comparables used in order to come up with the value of the property. A number of different but closely aligned adjusting selling price should merge. These close but different adjusted selling price need to be reconciled into one single estimate of value. In the reconciliation of the direct compare method, you need to consider the range and value shown by adjusted sale price. This change in range in value must make sense. So again, as to recap, there are five steps in direct comparison approach. There, there are four essential elements that need to be considered when selecting good and comparable sales and listing. A good comparable listing assist in telling the appraiser what the value is, what the property is not worth, which is the upper limit of the value. There are six possible, but the three types of adjustments that are may be required to be appraised. There are several methods used in order to quantify the percentage and total adjustments required to take account of difference between the properties. Inferior comparables required plus adjustments, superior comparables require minus adjustments. Adjustments are made to the comparables and not to the subject property. That's crucial. So you just keep these comparables, take the values, do the adjustments, and then use that to value the subject property. Reconciling the full adjusted value of the set of comparables requires judgment and involves a selection of the best comparable based on the adjustment made. I think with this we are done with that comparison approach. Couple of formulas to keep in mind: percentage changes always new minus old divided by old into 100%. Percentage change over month will be new minus old divided by old into 100% into the number of months. Cool. Thanks for your time. Bye.